Welcome to Holy Trinity Episcopal Church. The people of our congregation are happy to share this house of worship with you. This church is famous for the fresco of the Last Supper, produced in the summer of 1980 by Ben Long, a native of Statesville, North Carolina. The Italian word fresco means fresh, or in the case of the plaster, still wet. Fresco painting is an ancient technique in which finely ground natural mineral colors are mixed with water and painted onto the surface, freshly pasted with a mixture of lime, sand, and water. The colors enter into the wet surface so that the result is a painting in the wall rather than a painting on a wall. The artist spreads only that much plaster as he can paint in a day before it dries. If you look closely, you can see the surface unevenness or a day line, which indicates the boundary of each day's work. Fresco is an extremely durable medium. Surviving examples of fresco painting have been found in Egypt and Crete, dating back over 3,000 years. Because the colors are powdered rock, they will never fade like artificial dyes, but instead grow richer as the plaster cures with age. Working with Long, the artist, on this project were 20 young student artists who traded their labor for the opportunity to learn fresco techniques. People living in and around Ashe County at the time volunteered as models, and local residents in Glendale Springs helped with meals for the artists, so the work became a community project. Now, entering through the vestibule, you passed a student fresco, a young black woman from Greensboro, North Carolina. She has portrayed the agony of crucifixion in stark terms and with black features. In this picture, the face of Christ is the universal phrase of human pain. If you will turn towards the rear of the church, you will see over the doorway a fresco of Moses bringing the tablets of the law down from Mount Sinai. He shows Moses in his anger at the Israelites who have rejected the God who brought them out of Egypt and have gone back to worshiping the man-made idols of their slave days. Moses challenges them and us to examine the things we worship and the things that enslave us. Now, above the fresco of Moses is a window by stained glass artist Paul Gum, who worked in his own medium while the frescoes were being painted. The hand raised in benediction reminds us of a father's forgiveness to his prodigal children and how his hand fed them with bread from heaven in the wilderness. Turning to the front again, take a moment to enter into the scene before you. From the artist's perspective, our sanctuary now extends 6,000 miles and 2,000 years to a second-story room in first-century Jerusalem. It is early springtime. Evening sunlight streams through the window, both illuminating and partially obscuring one figure who is part of and yet distinct from the rest of the group seated around the table. Not what they were, not yet what they shall be. All of these people are hovering on the brink of a crucial event which will change their lives and alter history. The figure haloed by the window is Jesus. He and his followers are celebrating the Passover with a local family dinner, making a present again the events of the night when God freed the people of Israel from bondage in Egypt, the night when the angel Death passed over the house marked with the blood of the Lamb. The meal is almost over. Except for bread and wine, the remains of the feast have been cleared away and lie on a ledge to the left. Some bones from the roasted lamb, a few herbs. At the bottom of the stairs on the right, Someone, perhaps the father of the house, carries out the pottery dishes. At the left, a mother gathers her two sons. Children are important. They must ask the questions, why? Why do we eat this? Why do we do this? So that their father can recite the story of God's mighty acts in saving Israel and adopting them as chosen people. In this annual celebration, the history of faith is transmitted to the next generation. Like the dish carrier and the mother and children, the woman pour wine she's nameless in history. The fact that they are present at this critical moment is typical of the way God works. Women, children, carpenters, fishermen, slaves, the powerless and nameless are the ones whom he chooses for his greatest demonstration of power and love. Jesus now sits backlit by the window, seemingly lost in thought. Before the meal, he stripped off his clothes, wrapped himself in a towel, and washed his disciples' feet, a humble task normally performed by a slave. The towel, pitcher, and basin are still lying on the floor by the post of the right. I have given you an example, he told them. This is how the greatest of you should behave towards the least. You will be happy if you act like this. To begin the meal, he said the blessing, held up the bread, and said, "This bread is my body, which I give for you." Just now, he gave the traditional thanks after eating and then added, "This wine is my blood, poured out for you for a new relationship with God. Drink this, all of you, whenever you want to be present with you again." Some of the friends around the table are eating the bread and drinking the wine. One, Judas Iscariot, has left the table and is going out the door at the left, his back to us. He handles the money for the group, and the others think the master sent him to buy something or to give alms to the poor. In fact, he is going out to collect the money he has been promised for betraying Jesus into the hands of his enemies. At the far left sits Matthew, a hard man to feel good about. He is a tax collector for the hated Roman overalls, and before he met the master, and if he wasn't most, he took a healthy cut off the top. His money purse still dangles at his waist. Sitting next to Matthew on the far side of the table, tasting the bread, is Philip. Perhaps he remembers another Passover when the master told him to feed the crowd of thousands. "We pay for half a year, wouldn't buy enough bread for all these people," he said. And standing behind him is Andrew, a fisherman. He is one who found a boy with 5 little pieces of bread and 2 small fish and brought them to the rabbi, saying, "He is the boy with some food he is willing to share, but what good is such a little bit divided among so many?" A teacher from Galilee said the blessing that day, much as he did today, and began to pass out the food. Andrew had more than enough fish at the feast, and Philip ended up with 12 bushels of leftover bread. The people called Jesus a prophet that day. James is sitting on the side of the table, his back to us. Bolt upright in the stove, it intensely shows it. His brow is set, and his big shoulders, muscles are tight under the folds of his gray mantle and green robe, and the master calls him Son of Thunder. His big mouth and fiery temper will get him in trouble one day because of his loud defense of Jesus Christ and his church. Next to James sits a weather-beaten old fisherman, Bartholomew. He has turned to hear what the master has been saying. A stripped mantle over his shoulders and the fishing knife hanging at the side foretell his martyrdom. In days to come, he will be beaten to death for teaching about Jesus. Across the table, his face raised to the woman pouring wine, is Jude, who also goes by the name Thaddeus. Simon and Zealot sits directly in front of the serving woman, his face framed by a bushy mane of Israel. Their hope for an earthly kingdom will be dashed in the next few hours, but a new understanding of the kingdom of God will drive them into the world to tell others of life which rises from the grave and power which comes from love, not from the sword. Facing the rabbi is another Simon, whom Jesus called the Rock, Petros in Greek, as we know this man as Peter. He seems puzzled by the words about bread and wine. Another fisherman, he is a practical man, a doer, not a thinker, and he never does anything halfway. When the master went down to wash his feet this evening, Simon Peter told him that it wasn't right for the great one to wash his feet, and he wouldn't have any part of it. But then Jesus said, I won't have any part of you if you won't let me wash your feet. The Rock turned around and said, well, in that case, wash me. The coming hours will teach this proud man of action how weak he really is. He will deny he ever knew the man who now swears to defend it, yet he will grow to become the head of the church in Jerusalem, the leader of the first followers of Christ. He will be solid as a rock for them during the coming time of persecution. He will help to desire what it means to be a Christian, and in the end he will choose to be crucified upside down rather than deny the Lord again. On our side of the table to the right sits James. The cloak draped over his back bears a stripe and sawtooth design because he will die for his belief. Across the table for him, John, the beloved, is drinking from the cup the rabbi has just blessed. Youngest of the 12, he is like a member of the rabbi's family. In a few hours, the crucified Jesus will give his mother Mary to John as his new mother, and John to her as a new son. John is the only one at the table whom tradition says will live to an old age and die in his own bed. It is said of John that when he is too old and feeble to tell the whole story anymore, he will just tell people, love one another. At the right end of the table, etched in clear sunlight from the window, is the one known as Thomas the twin, whom we today call Doubting Thomas. Arms crossed, he is looking right at us and me and all of us, and no matter where we go in this room, his riveting stare follows us. Over his head hangs a rope, a traditional symbol of bondage. Last of the disciples to meet the risen Christ face to face, he will refuse to believe the others when they claim to have seen him. I'll believe it when I can put my fingers into the wound and my hands into his side, he said. But when the risen Lord does appear to him, he will fall to his knees, crying, my Lord and my God. The raggedy collection of people there, no longer what they were, not yet what they shall be. People like you and me, with faults, failings, damaged past, uncertain futures, not special people, but chosen people. Having experienced a direct relationship with God, they were so overwhelmed that they could not keep silent. They had to tell everyone, even if it cost them their lives. At the center of the table on our side stands an empty stool. It is there for each of us, for we too are chosen people. You and I are invited guests to this table of love. The altar of this church is open to all believers, and we invite you to join our congregation in the celebration of this Holy Communion. But no matter where you are, Jesus invites you to break bread with him, to find out what it means when he says, you are my body, and how he can promise that you will do greater things than these in my name. The oldest recorded version of the words Christians use in their celebration of the Holy Communion or Great Thanksgiving contains this prayer. And this broken bread was scattered over the hills as seeds, and then, when gathered, becomes one loaf. So may the church be gathered from the ends of the earth into thy kingdom. You and I are such seeds, sprouting even now, no longer what we may be, and not yet what we shall be. Yet the power of life and growth is in it through Jesus Christ. Alleluia. Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast. Thank you, and we invite you to visit the Chapel of Christ the King in the columbarium below. The entrance is located on the right of the building, and the easiest access is by the stone walkway past the baptismal pool outside. In the chapel are more works of art, including a fresco by James Minnis of Southern Pines, North Carolina. That fresco, called The Departure of Christ, depicts Jesus leaving his mother, home, and childhood to begin his ministry. We hope you have been brought closer to Christ by your visit with us today. And we ask, of course, that you pray for us and for the work of Christ in this place and in all that we do for his people. If you wish to leave a gift, we would love a donation. We need it in the continuation of this work. And we also now have a fresco foundation in which you can devote your time and energy and money to make sure this fresco will always last for you and for others. The fresco foundation is here. Ask us about it. So thank you, and thank you for your gifts, your prayers, and your time.